I trained with this woman who literally had superpowers. She could like materialize things out of thin air. She had hundreds of potions and elixirs and honey and like diamonds and gold, like everything.
Daniel, I want to start with manifestation because we were briefly talking about timelines, how to access different timelines. So give us a little rundown on your knowledge on manifestation, how you ended up in your own experience proving it was true.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I came from a background where I was suicidally depressed, autistic, had social anxiety, could barely function. So it felt like I was almost in like a mental wheelchair. I could barely do anything, right? It was like a living hell for me. And so when a lot of the basic functionality that other people had around me, it didn't work for me. And I started learning about the law of attraction and energy, and I tried it out. It instantly changed my life. And, the first time I tried to manifest something I was like, okay, I'm going to be a rock star, and I wasn't a professional musician and I didn't have, connections with like, famous musicians or anything. And I used the technique and I got really excited. I pretended like it was already done. I just believed it. And then shortly thereafter, I got invited to be part of a Vegas show with the band Cheap Trick and the Beatles sound engineer. And I just got to play one song and like, I didn't even play well. So like the Beatles sound engineer kept getting mad at me. It's like a legendary, musician and engineer. But, it just shows like I wasn't even qualified and it just like happened. I shifted to that timeline. And that was, it was fun, but it was also like, okay, this is actually not what I really want. It was a little bit of my ego, but it taught me like, okay, like this is how it works. Let's
what first opened the door when you were in that state of despair? What opened that first door for you to be like, there's a whole new world?
Well, I had a dream. I woke up from a dream and it wasn't like a normal dream. And it just showed me this hill and it said, if you go to this festival on this date at this time, your life will change forever. And I had so much social anxiety. I was so scared to do it, but I decided to just take the leap. And it was a pretty traumatic experience. There was like tens of thousands of people. I was like freaking out. My nervous system was just shaking and, it was not fun. And I forgot about this dream until me and my friend were leaving. And then all of a sudden I saw this man with a sign that said free energy healing. And I said, I gotta try this out. And in 5 minutes just blew me open into a whole different dimension. And that's what started my spiritual journey.
What was the exact thing he was doing to you? Was it just like a guided meditation?
He just told me to close my eyes and he started just like toning and moving his energy and just doing like a qigong energy and starting to walk back. And as he was walking back, it was like my awareness just spread from this little nervous boy to like, whoa, I could feel everything. And then it felt like I just opened back up to the world. It felt like everything was fake until that moment where it just reconnected again.
So that moment you felt like who I am now is not the end goal. That there's so many different pieces of me or timelines I can take to go somewhere. That was the first realization.
Yeah, it really opened me to the possibilities of that. And that's what I started learning energy healings and went to India, went all over the world, the jungle. And it was a pretty wild journey. 15 years around the world.
Shoot. Well, I want to hear all about that, but back to the manifestation parts. Okay, you went from trying to manifest a rock star.
Yeah.
From the ego, didn't feel great. What was the next?
Yeah, it didn't work out too well, but it worked.
Yeah.
It taught me a lot.
Why do you think it worked?
Because you don't have to manifest from your soul to make it work. The universe is going to reflect things back to you with your vibration. It could be negative, it could be positive, but it's still working for you because it's just a mirror showing you like, okay, this is the seed in which, whatever seed you plant, you'll get that tree. And so I started refining it over the years. It's like, what does my soul really want? And how can we make that really pure? And that's when things got a lot more beautiful.
Right? How can we recognize that, right? I think so much for manifestation, it does come from the ego, right? Like it's just fame, attention, validation. What can people actually do to recognize what their higher self wants versus what their ego actually desires? What's that process like? Totally.
Well, it's just awareness. It's really realizing we've been programmed to think we want a lot of things. Like we watch a commercial about, a burger. It's not really good for us. And so there's a lot of these unfulfilled like holes or hungry ghosts inside of us that we want to start loving. Because if we start just doing all these manifestation rituals blindly, it's just going to reflect back more scarcity, right? Even if you're like, oh, I'm going to manifest a partner, but you haven't done the inner work, then it's going to, after the honeymoon phase, you're going to see all this stuff that's going to be really intense. And it's fine. Like you can learn that way. But the more you proactively like feel like, is this coming from fear or love? Is this coming from scarcity or is this coming from wholeness?
Mm-hmm.
And the more we manifest from that place of wholeness, the more beautiful the world we co-create.
For sure. In your first mention of the rock thing, I think you mentioned a key part of it was you fully believed it. Like it was there. You know, that has to be a core ingredient in manifestation. But in that, how do you teach people you're helping that to believe where they're going, but also not shame themselves where they are now? I think that's a key problem I see manifestation, my experience, where I like really believe and need to be there, but then where I actually was now, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't believe it because so fixated in that, but I was here right now. And it created a split between me of like the person I was now and the person I needed to be. And I couldn't reconcile that. So how can we avoid that in manifestation?
Yeah, it's actually, there's a difference between attaching to something and just holding the faith that it's already done. And that's adopting the divine perspective. And so the divine perspective is that this moment is perfect and your wish will manifest as long as you don't get in the way of it. And so it's just holding that trust of just the knowing that you're good right now, and like with that love and the knowing that life will unfold perfectly.
What's blocking us from holding that faith? Most of us.
The attachment to the false identity. It's the stories that we think we're not good enough, we don't deserve it, or I have to sacrifice myself and not be fully authentic to get some breadcrumb of love, for example. Then you're going to manifest someone, you know, that's a narcissist or whatever. And people then demonize that person, but they've just been traumatized too. And they're just the other side of the coin, reflecting to you how your beliefs are playing out in real time. And so that's why when we really hold the divine perspective, we see that everyone's an angel. Doesn't mean you have to put up with negative behavior or anything. Sometimes you just block it and move on, but it's still like showing you something that you need to see so that you can go deeper within and love yourself more and actually vibrate at who you really are.
So let's make an example where people would follow kind of like a blueprint. So let's say someone trying to manifest a new house, new amazing house.
Yeah.
What would you tell that person to do?
Yeah. So I would first just focus on the feeling, like, what is this house going to make you feel like, right? It's going to maybe support a new identity where you're loving yourself, you're respecting yourself, where you feel more abundant. And then just use your intuition to tune into all the little things. You know, I make this joke, like my last house I manifested, I was like, I want a secret library room. I want a moat, just like a castle. And then I manifested, there's a moat, but I forgot to add the bridge. And so like probably 20 cars got screwed up just trying to cross over this little moat that was just there at the house that I couldn't fix. So it's like, you know, be specific and like make sure you include the things, because a lot of people, they do this for partners too. And they don't believe they can ask for everything. And then they're like, oh, I forgot to say that, ask that they're like 100% loyal or listen to me, you know? So anyway, so you make that list of parameters and you're very specific with it, but you want to detach from an actual form. So like, let's say there's a house that you see that you're like, I really want this house. You can try to manifest it, but there can be negative repercussions. You know, there's stories of like, you know, people doing this and then the person that's living in the house dies and then they get the house. But because you have an attachment to it, then you're influencing other people's reality. And so the high magic is when you let the divine decide, you let the universe decide. And you could say, I want a house like this or better, or, you know, a person like this or better. And that way you're not trying to influence or manipulate the external reality. Instead, you're just holding something within and it creates the best possible scenario without any like karmic or negative repercussions. And then there's, you know, a whole system I teach, you know, there's rituals and things you can do to amplify it. But essentially you just get into this state of rapture, like let yourself feel it and believe it until you're just like, it's done. And one way to do that is your whys. Like, why do you want this house? You know? And when you stack your whys, it's like, okay, because I deserve to no longer have crazy neighbors next to me. And so I can be more creative and finally live my purpose, whatever, right? Have friends over that I love, etc. So once you stack those whys and there's no more wobble, meaning you just like, oh, this is happening, right? You're fully in. That's what you need to get to 100%. And then you surrender and then you listen to your intuition. You hold that faith and things are just going to start moving around you. You might have a feeling to check Airbnb or go to the park and you meet someone, and that's the surrender. And so when you balance those different qualities, that's the sweet spot.
Where does action come in? Like, I think, what's the line between kind of waiting for divine intervention and then overdoing like the chasing it? So what's that line like?
Yeah.
What do you recommend?
It's just about energy. So surrender, you don't you don't really trust and surrender if you don't take action. Because you could say like, oh, I trust, but you know, the intuition's telling you to call this person you're scared to, right? So the surrender is actually taking the action. It's not just doing nothing. And it's from the right place. So are you doing it because you feel pressure and you feel afraid? That's planting a seed of scarcity. That's not going to get you the perfect house. Or maybe you need to meditate first or do a float tank and get back in your center and then be like, okay, this is what my intuition is telling me to do, is to call this person to go here. So it's just getting in the right state first. That's the number one thing I think people need to remember right now, because the energy, you know, like they talked in ancient scriptures, that's the seed that you put in. That's what's going to manifest the outcome. And most people are still manifesting from scarcity. So it's important to not rush into trying a little ritual or whatever. Way more important. You don't even need a ritual. You know, those can, you know, help, but it's way more important just to be in the right vibration, because that's what's going to reflect back every time. And when you don't do the inner work, even if you're trying for years to manifest whatever it is, if you're holding on to these negative imprints, it still has to manifest, because it's just how reality works.
I think it's the cause of a lot of severe depression. It taught me at a young age. When I was like 13, 14, I didn't have many friends. I had no female attention.
Yeah.
Got terrible grades, was miserable, was overweight.
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know, one day when I'm in college, I'm going to go to the best college, all the girls, the best grades. In that moment, I was like, it's all be fine. So I'll get there. I believed it. And I got there. I was at one of the best colleges, best grades, had all the girls I wanted, but I felt utterly miserable. That was the first reality for me, being like, everything I asked for came true because I believed in it. But the place I called it in from was so desperate and scarce that once that moment came, I felt miserable. I think it's a common pattern for most people. That's why you see billionaires with so much money and they just feel terrible. They can't stop. So how do people avoid that trap that happens to so many of us, to finally get what we asked for, but then still feel so hungry? Totally. I think it's such a rare thing in society to get the manifestation and feel fed and appreciate it and not want the next thing. How do we do that?
That's a great question. Well, you know, manifestation is kind of like a carrot that I put in my courses because people want it. But as I teach them that, you know, the way to really manifest is to detach. And attachment, like Buddha said, is the root of all suffering, right? Whether you want to fear and go averse from something, or we're attached to a desire. And it's realizing that we've just been programmed in this crazy world for hundreds of years, if not thousands, to believe that we're not good enough and that we need to, you know, this to be fed or to be validated or to be acknowledged, right? We need the nice car, or we need the boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever it is. So the more we can just sit with ourselves and start letting go of the attachments, which is just through awareness, just looking at it and realizing that it's not really going to give us everything we need if we're not holding ourselves and loving ourselves or doing what we love, right? The more you just look at that, it starts detaching. And part of it's also looking at your past patterns. You can learn. It's like, hey, I've already done this like 20 times and then I keep getting burnt out. It keeps not working, right? I'm attaching to something. I get it, or, right? So when you just kind of take a step back and be more neutral, that's the key, because then you fill your own void with love, which is just it's just a perspective that you feel there's something missing. It's not really missing, but it's something that's unresolved. And the more you do that yourself, the easier it is to be magnetic. And then you don't even have to do anything and people start chasing you.
Why is it magnetic? My guru always told me that when I was young, and I had him since I was 19. He told me the less you need that thing you're trying to call in, the more it'll likely to come to you. The more you kind of like need it and desperately like vie for it, the more it'll kind of speed up. And I was like, there's no way, because my trauma is like always overworking for something. Why is that true? Why does our detachment and just presence actually magnetize the thing towards us, right? You see in my metaphor for this is dating, right? If you're someone who isn't needy, right? A guy who gets all the girls is the one who doesn't need them. Yeah. Why is that the case?
Imagine that your energy field, like there's a big chunk of it that's going out. So whenever you see a girl you like, she can feel like that neediness. It's like, oh, please fill this hole, right? And that feels pressure, that feels constraining. Now, if you put that piece of you back within and love that part of you, now she feels safe. She's like, oh, this is someone that's loving themselves. They can love me. I can really land with this person. It's more attractive. It's more magnetic. And this doesn't have to be just with people, right? It's with money. It's with everything, because the more of you is in your body, meaning you're integrated and whole, the more that you go from repelling energy to pulling in, because now like equals like. Like if you're loving a part of yourself, like more love will come to you because you're vibrating that. If you don't feel good enough, and you're saying, I need this, you're saying, I don't have it. And so that's the energy of I don't have it, I don't have it. That's what you're actually broadcasting out.
Yeah.
And so that's why people that, with money, with anything really, like they're just stuck in this loop, and they just need to bring awareness to it and sit with it.
I feel like where there's a need, there's a lack in your system. How do we give ourselves that nourishment to overcome that lack?
Exactly. And a lot of people have been programmed with language too, the language of slavery. They're like, oh, I need to call this person. And, you look at royalty or people that are conscious, they're like, they never say that word. It's like, you just decide in the moment, like,
they don't say the word need. They don't say the word need.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, they're like, I'm calling this person, or you call this person, right? But I need to call this person. It's like, you haven't even decided yet. You haven't made a decision, and you're giving yourself a chore, and you're separating yourself from it, because it's like you're fighting. It's like a part of you is like, I should do this. And a part of you is like, maybe you're feeling resistance, and you're just like driving with the brakes on. So being decisive is the key. It's people forgot how to do that. You don't need to have it in the bank account to be like, I'm creating this studio or whatever it is, right? You just need to be decisive, because that's how reality works. And only when you're bold and decisive, the universe is like, oh, finally you've made a decision. Now I can help you create it if you just get out of the way, right?
So what's an example of that decisiveness? If you're trying to call on something, how would you phrase it in your mind? Are you speaking it out? How do you actually phrase that decisiveness?
Yeah, well, what's something you want to manifest?
More listeners on
Okay.
the podcast.
So you could say, you could use your intuition. You could say, okay, by this time next year, I have 1 million monthly downloads, right? Or whatever feels good for you. So, I like to balance it with intuition. It's like, okay, what's my max capacity at this time? And then what do I get to do, and who do I get to be to get there, right? If you want to do it that way. Or it could just be like, how can I do the maximum amount of impact for the maximum amount of people, right? So it doesn't have to be a number, but it's just then you're boldly just claiming it like it's already done, because you've decided that you're going to do what it takes for you to be that person, right? Out of love, out of care.
Yeah. How do we overcome the doubt, right? I think what I struggle with, and talking to people, they also struggle with, is that I think my thing that helped me is I saw my future on DMT.
Yeah.
I saw the whole thing. I saw like everything that happened, like just like bang.
Epic.
So I've seen it, but still my human self, when it's not here in this present moment, the shadow of doubt will start creeping in my mind. Yeah. And a lot of people I know who have had similar experience or do believe something, they'll still experience doubt in their mind, such as, let's say, if you're trying to get, I don't know, like a new salary, and then your current salary isn't meeting that. And then your mind goes into just like stuck in this moment of like, I'll never get there and stuff like that.
Totally.
How do you overcome that voice of doubt?
So it's not overcoming it, because doubt is an illusion. They talked about this in the Kabbalah and different ancient texts. You can call it the devil, you can call it the great adversary. It's just the opponent that's continuously showing you your own vulnerabilities. And it's, thoughts are illusion, right? So you try to overcome something, you're giving it energy because you're trying to fight it, right? You feed it what you resist persists. So it's more about taking a step back and just staying neutral, right? Just being like, oh, interesting. This is curious. This thought's coming up. I'm feeling it right here. This is bringing up a story of when I feel like I failed when I was 20, right? So you just start observing it and create more awareness. And then there's a lot of different tools you can do to then face your fear, face the doubt, and realize it's an illusion, and like lean into it instead of trying to fight it, because that's going to give it power, and actually say that you are real and make it real. If you feed it long enough, right, it will manifest somehow. Because whatever you believe, you'll be proven right either way. Yeah. So that's what I teach in my school, is really that, it's the doubt and this false identity. It's about how do you interface with it, and how do you stop manifesting from that place, because your subconscious is so powerful, and start creating more space to be your true self and like hold that awareness throughout the day. And that means, relationships need to treat you different. Maybe the food you're eating is different. The music you're listening to, right? Your daily practice. The more and more you can just remember who you are and stay awake and stabilize that, then it's going to be, now once in a while, it's like a little mosquito instead of like trying to climb the Himalayan mountains, right? Yeah. Because you have that momentum again,
Hearing that, you're probably talking about just letting your higher self take over. Yeah. A lot of the time. It was a UFC fight on Saturday in the winter, and I asked him, how'd you do it? He said, I breathed, I kind of spaced out, and I let my higher self take over. He landed a knockout. So how do we do that in reality? How do we take a step back, allow our highest expression of self to kind of guide us and take over?
Yeah, well, I think the first step, I trained with this woman who literally had superpowers. She could like materialize things out of thin air.
Give me an example.
She had hundreds of potions and elixirs and honey and like diamonds and gold, like everything. But she was so in integrity. She was like, I can't sell any of this. Like, it's for healing. If you need it for healing.
She just like do something and diamonds would appear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all the time. It was, and like, I would put one in my hand and my whole body would like have a convulsion. I took a spoon of this honey and it was like a DMT trip. Like instantly it touched my lips and I was like, for like 10 minutes. I was like, okay, this is a real deal. And she knew my deepest secrets when she met me, like that no one knew.
Mm.
So she said the first rule of materialization is to stay at 12 o'clock. So that means like imagine a clock, you're just staying neutral. So you're not letting yourself become a puppet to your desire or aversion, right? So, every time we give someone our power, it's like, oh, even if it's a lover, it's like, okay, we feel so high when they're loving us. We feel so down if they withdraw, right?
Yeah.
So we don't want to attach to those things. That can actually help you go even deeper into love, right? Because now you're free and you can come from unconditional love. So the more that you detach and just stay in the center, and that doesn't mean don't get triggered. Like triggers are good. It's just feel the trigger, but don't let yourself get out of that center, right?
Yeah,
and start freaking out. Just observe, feel, right? And the more you do that, you start dissolving these attachments, these karmic layers. And then that's when the magic happens. It's really incredible because when you're neutral, you gain that awareness. Now you can pull through so much more of your higher self, your intuition, just the miracles that happen because you're not pulled by all these lower things. And then you have access. You're just like, oh, okay, now you have clearance, clearance level for this higher magic.
You mentioned earlier kind of that a lot of the language we use is affecting our ability to materialize things or even to be sane human beings. You mentioned the word need. We use the word need a lot. What are other words or phrases people in Western society use that keep us kind of fucked, basically?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the whole, one of them is the language of death. It's like, look at all this. Oh, that's wicked. Oh, that's sick. Killer. What's the deadline? All these things you're saying being sick is good, being wicked is good, right? That's what you're saying subconsciously. You're like, oh no, it's just a metaphor. But when your subconscious is, it connects the dots, right? So, stop using all these words that, these people have created to keep you small and use words that are more conscious, is a big part of it in general. And, just like need, it's like the word should or things where you're creating pressure on yourself or treating yourself like a slave when you create your own reality. So it's just claiming it, right? If you don't know yet, tune in and then wait. And then once you know, just claim it. And, another one is not projecting, like taking full responsibility for your reality. No one can ruin your life. No one can make you a victim, right? It's about really how you deal with it, and I've went through so much crazy abuse and just the craziest stories of near death so many times. And now I can say like, no, that was actually my path of what I needed for my mission here today.
What did you see in your near death experiences?
Well, basically what I was just, one of them, I was just like terrified, I felt like, oh my God, I'm about to die. And like, I didn't live my mission. And like, all these things came up and I was just, what it showed me, this was years ago. I finally then just like prayed and prayed to God. And then I heard a voice and it like calmed me down instantly and then brought me out. And so it was just showing me how, even though I was on the spiritual path, I wasn't like truly deeply connected to God. And, that was perfectly needed for me to get the necessary pressure to finally like actually go there, So I feel like it was all part of the plan as usual.
Let's go a little bit into I'm curious about your education.
Yeah.
Right. You said you get the title of a wizard. What does it take for someone to get educated to become a wizard or to understand these things you do? Because, in standard society, it's you become a lawyer, you go to law school. So what was your school of education to become the wizard?
Yeah, well, I think we're all wizards and it's just dormant in a lot of us. But essentially, I spent 15 years around the world and I started with some simple things like learning Reiki, becoming a Reiki master in year one, to then, going to the jungles, living with tribes, doing many different ceremonies.
What was that like? I want to hear each
story. Got it.
What were the tribes like? What did it teach you?
Yeah, I mean, I went to the Amazon a couple times and did a lot of ceremonies with tribes. And the main tradition I studied with was with the Bwiti, which is from Africa. And that was around 9 months. I lived with an African shaman, which was pretty wild. And I learned a lot. He definitely harnessed that decisive power. And, like in my first ceremony, I was with another woman that she was so sick. Like I didn't even talk to her before the ceremony. She was just there. I was going through my own journey. And then after about a couple hours, my depression felt like it was cured. I went there because I was depressed after trying everything. And then it just like blew my mind, like nothing else. And then
what do you think lifted it? Just like energetic?
Well, it showed me, it was like a video game, and it was showing me like how I had all these thoughts, and then there was like a doubt, and there's like a Pac-Man, like a virus being like, you can't do this. You're not good enough. And it just showed me how to disidentify with it. It just showed me like a window opening and just be like, it's not real. And I just kept doing that over and over again until it just like created this opening. And I just broke out of this whole web of things I thought was wrong with me, which was why I was depressed.
Mm-hmm.
So, once I did that, I told the shaman like, hey, I'm not depressed anymore. And he said, good, now go into her body and tell me what's going on with her. Instantly. And I was like, he was not fazed at all. He's like, sees this all the time. And I was like, how do I go inside her body? And he said, don't ask how, just do it. And then all of a sudden I was there, and I could see like millions of pieces of information, not only like every vein and capillary in her body and what was going on, but how it started when she was in high school because two girls yelled at her, and the programming and the beliefs and the accumulation and how it would heal all at the same time, like holographically. And I start channeling it, and it was 100% accurate. She was blown away, this woman. And I didn't know that I could do that. And then I realized I could do that without taking medicine, which is great because I don't want to rely on a substance. And then that became a really big part of my career, is being able to tune into people's timelines, and more importantly, to help guide them to transform it and free themselves and connect with their dreams and their soul through a process similar to that in some ways, guiding them through that video game, but without needing to take substances.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So African shaman, what was next? What was the next piece of your education?
Yeah, I mean, it went all over the place. I think a lot of it too was just hanging out. Then it kind of started hanging out with really powerful entrepreneurs and billionaires. And I was their coach, but really quickly, like, I realized that even though I had this freak gift, there's so many areas of my human life that were amiss. And so they quickly became my friends and started coaching me. And I learned from them, and they were all spiritual in different degrees. So I learned, about manifestation more from them, and relationships, and like just good qualities to have in a successful person. So it was really cool because I got to go from all these different traditions, from India to ancient hermetics to, the top entrepreneurs in the world, and just get a really diverse set of codes, and seeing how they were all interrelated is my favorite part.
What did the entrepreneurs teach you?
One of them actually taught me the manifestation formula I use today. So it's kind of an addition to it. Like I said about stacking those whys and getting really clear. And then you surrender the how, right? You surrender the who. You just decide on the why and the what, right? And that's the masculine, be super decisive and clear and precise. And then you surrender the rest, right? And that's the key, is the balance of the masculine and feminine. So that really was a game changer for me.
What does that balance look like? It's just, it's that, hearing you out, in my understanding, make sure I get it right, is that the first step is having that masculine assertion, like, this will happen, I'm claiming it. And the feminine is more so just being like, all right, I'm going to surrender to whatever the higher plan.
Yeah, you surrender the how, right? So, because that's where people get caught up in the doubt. It's like, well, how am I going to afford it? Like, how am I going to meet this person? Like, how am I going to do this when this happened in the past? And all that stuff. Your mind is trying to extrapolate your old self and limitations into the future.
Yeah.
And so when you remember that, when you face doubt, you're like, nope, this is actually not forever. Like, that's the old story. Yeah. It's no longer relevant.
Yeah.
Right?
What do you say to some of the religious people or deniers of manifestation who argue that, who am I to claim what I want when God ultimately knows everything? You hear the argument, like, what do you say to them? Why is it important for us to co-create? Why isn't it just walking around and seeing what happens?
Yeah, I mean, there's different religions. For example, Christianity, for people in the Christian faith, I would say a lot of your Bible has been hidden from you. In early 300s AD, Emperor Constantine took off many different books of the Bible that actually give you an exact protocol on how to manifest and how to pray. So in the Bible today, you still have the little piece of like, ask and you shall receive, but it doesn't tell you how to do that. But before they took it out, it says, make your heart and mind one. So, your heart is magnetic and your mind is electric. So you need, and envelop yourself in your desires and be one with them. And then know that it is already done when you ask. And so it's telling you like exactly how to do it and create an electromagnetic signal and visualize it and feel it at the same time and know that it's done. And that's how you manifest anything. And Christ is telling you, this is how you do it. You're meant to do it. I'm just an inspiration to you. And so what they've done is they say, okay, this is just one man. You can never be like him, and, don't ask for anything. Like the world is a bad place, but I believe that that's not true. I believe that the world has dark and light, but it's also made by the divine, and that, we're not meant to just push away this entire life and all the lessons and gifts that it holds when God brought us here for a reason. And that by embracing it and finding the balance between, the terrestrial and celestial realms, that's really the key. And that's what a lot of ancient textbooks have said, is actually finding the balance, not just doing too materialist, but also not just dissociating and like taking psychedelics every day and forgetting your body, right? It's finding the balance between embracing both realms.
Why did the divine create the dark, you think?
The divine created the dark because as souls, without the darkness, we wouldn't have free will. We wouldn't have contrast.
So? I agree. I'm just curious.
Totally, yeah. So, well, if everything was already light and like we wouldn't have challenges, we wouldn't get to know like risks and who we really are by saying, hey, like your body could die right now. Are you going to stand up for the truth, or are you going to just, you know what I mean? So it's an opportunity for you to learn about yourself in reality and to choose the good by seeing the contrast and to see the contrast of who you are not. So it's like a gym trainer. It's like, you need weights to get stronger at the gym. So I don't see the darkness as like, oh, it shouldn't be here, because it's not in the whole universe, right? In this realm, it's about, equal at this time, right? The light and the dark. And so it's really just, I say life is a school and love is the lesson, right? So it helps us to love more and to do the right thing and to grow as souls.
Yes, the darkness feeds the light ultimately.
Yeah, it's the absence of light so that you can be the light, so you can see the light and you can create more light and have a mission.
Yeah, I do a good job of, in my own ecosystem internally, having that belief. When it happens outside of me, I don't have that same skill. So how do you do that for yourself? Like, you recognize all the agendas and fucked up things going on right now in the world and the matrix, all that kind of stuff. How do you have that same perspective for that kind of side of things?
In terms of all the stuff going on in the world?
Yeah. And not kind of get like, oh, super frustrated, or...
I think it's not about I still get frustrated once in a while, and so I'm still growing in it and learning, but I think that frustration is part of the alchemy, where like, that's going to get you to build a studio or to make your movie or to speak a message out. So I feel like it's not about pushing away the feelings that arise, but more like using them as fuel for your art and for your mission. Yeah.
That's what I've noticed, that kind of when I have a temper tantrum internally, kind of me being like, everything I'm doing now isn't working. Like somehow, like I have to ask for some guidance or claim something that'll take me to a new level from this. So what are certain ways you view negative emotions to alchemize them? So how do we actually alchemize anxiety, for example? Like what's anxiety helping us or trying to get us to do?
Yeah, well, anxiety is usually an echo of the past. You might feel like, oh, I'm anxious to go on this date, but it's really just trying to protect you from the time where you felt rejected when you were 5, right? And so a lot of times people are superficially just trying to control an echo of the past as they're going on a date, which creates more anxiety, because control, right, is fear. Or you can just breathe into it and hold that part of you and say like, hey, why are you scared? And it might bring you a memory of when you were 5, for example, right? So you find the root of the anxiety, which you can ask right away. People forget this. It's like you can command your subconscious to give you any information. It's like, where did I leave my phone? Right? And if you're decisive and then you listen, it works, right? And so when you find the root of it, you can change the memory, because the only present moment is now. So you can change the memory of when you were abused and go back in time, bring in your angel, go back yourself, say what you didn't say and change it, protect yourself. And, rarely you actually have a physical manifestation. Like sometimes people's picture changes, or like driver license is pretty crazy, but usually it's just more of an energetic thing. Do an example in yourself, other people have used that method? This girl I know, like she showed me, I believe it's her driver's license. Like the picture changed after she did an inner child healing. So it's pretty interesting.
I never heard that take. my mind's kind of blown
it's
right
pretty
now.
crazy. I mean, I know,
So,
one of my
example,
teachers.
Let's say, I'm trying to think of an example for me. So some of my wounding is that the cooler girls when I was like 10 or 11 would call me fat and disgusting when I was in school. And that has a serious effect on me still. I still have something to prove to kind of like attractive women. I have a history of being like a playboy, all that kind of stuff, just to overcome that. How would I guide myself to go to that moment to correct the memory? Or someone in the same situation as me? How would you do that? How does it actually change my reality right now?
I could tell you how to do it, or we could do it now.
We can do it. Yeah, let's do it.
Yeah? All right, let's do it. You want to close your eyes for a couple minutes?
Sure. I'm going to give you a break to digest all this amazing information. And in this break, please comment, like, and subscribe. Thank you.
Just see if you can relax your jaw, relax your body, and just take a deep breath in through the nose and just exhale through the mouth. And start to just relax yourself, and we're going to just shine a divine light to find the root of this imprint of needing to prove yourself. And just see if there's a memory that pops up. It could be what you just shared or something else. So where do you feel that tension in your body the most?
Here.
Okay, perfect. And let's ask, like, when did this start? And see if you get a memory.
Yeah, myself internally. Okay, I got it. Yeah.
Got it? Okay. So just in a few words, tell me, like, where are you right now?
My house in London, where I grew up.
And what just happened?
My mom left in an angry ruckus.
And what meaning did that create about yourself?
That I wasn't worthy of her love.
Okay, perfect. You found it. So just take a deep breath, and we're going to go back there together. And I want you to just give that younger boy a big hug. And I want you to remind him of the truth. Is that actually true what you said, or is it something else? What do you want to tell him?
To say internally or speak?
You can say it out loud.
You are enough. You've always been enough. Trust that you're enough. Hold that. I'm here for you. I love you. I'm always with you if you need guidance.
Beautiful. Let's take a deep breath. Give him a hug. And just see, how does he respond? See if he needs anything else.
He's good. Just confusion. He's confused, but he's good.
Okay. So just ask him, like, what are you still confused about?
He just doesn't really know what to do in those moments where he feels like he's not worthy of love.
Okay. So let's remind him. So you just say that I'm here now to remind you, to hold you, that this has nothing to do with you, right? Your mom never took a class like this, right? Her parents didn't. She was overwhelmed with her emotions. And when people are overwhelmed, they don't know how to take care of other people. They're not resourced. So you don't have to take that on anymore. And you can just hold yourself. So I want you to show him just giving himself a hug and just breathing in that golden energy and teaching him to say, I love you. Nothing's wrong. There's nothing wrong with you. And just take a deep breath and just kind of wipe off that energy from your mom. Kind of like take it off your throat, your heart. Just use your hands to just brush it off. Yeah, and the little boy's doing that. And how does he feel now?
He's good. He's happy.
There you go. So I want you to imagine, like, that moment. You take his hand throughout your life now, and you're just there every moment he needs support and forgets, you remind him just like you did. And you're changing the whole timeline. And just take a deep breath and just release all that energy, that whole story. And now there's nothing to prove because you've got it inside. You're just reminding yourself. And I want you to imagine just coming to this present moment. You meet the beautiful queen, the beautiful love of your life. And because you're holding yourself, she's holding you. She's doesn't need you to prove anything because she doesn't need that. She's awake. She can feel you. And just take a breath into that and just see if you can receive that love.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So that was a little quick example. We can go a lot deeper, but these little things like that can really make a difference.
Yeah, I don't know what you're doing like energetically, but I can feel like some kind of, I don't know what it was. It was like this.
Yeah. You're shifting the timelines, right?
I felt like I wasn't really here. I was like kind of like just in some space. I felt like I was kind of moving around a bit.
Well, part of your soul was stuck in that memory and in that timeline. And so every time we do that, we're like recapitulating, we're getting back. So you had to go there to kind of reconnect with it, right?
Well, thank you for that.
Yeah, anytime.
So when you can do that anytime you have a trigger from childhood. You can do
from anything. It's usually based in childhood or sometimes a past life.
Okay. All right. So let's use an example. So if someone has abandonment issues, right, which is me, and they're seeing someone new, and they feel that wound come up.
Yeah,
it's an invitation to do that exercise, to go back to that moment where they felt that key wounding release.
Totally.
And guide that person back then.
You can either go back to memory, or you can just talk to that part of you now. Like it could be the 5-year-old, could be the teenager, and just ask what it needs. Have a conversation and reassure it. And sometimes you might have to do the same thing multiple times, but it's kind of like working out, right? Sometimes you learn how to really hold that part of you until it learns to relax. And what happens when you do that is you manifest a completely different reality, because what you realize is your subconscious, which is these parts of your psyche that are not integrated, when you get triggered, they start taking the car and driving it. And you can call it self-sabotage or whatever. But it's like when we learn to hold it and be like, hey, I'm listening to you, but daddy's driving, right? Mm-hmm. You're not going to drive the car right now. You stay neutral. That's when you break the cycle. And that's when you manifest at a whole new level.
How do we get to the driver's seat?
Well, you're already at the driver's seat. You just sometimes forget.
Yeah. Like for me, it's gotten better, but like, for example, if there are certain triggers I've cleared, some are still there. What I notice is that, it's the way trauma works, is that when a trigger comes, your mind will reflect the trigger. So your thoughts will come out that reflect the wounding from that point back then, all the same thoughts. So right now I can observe them and not like hold on or react to them and pull another thread to get through them.
Yeah.
But I still can't just drive through. You know what I mean? So what is that? You know what I mean? Like how do we get to the place where we can just kind of hear those sounds and just kind of drive through anyway, instead of just like being frozen?
Totally. Well, the freeze response is normal, right? And it's something to be patient with, because part of it is just continuing to do the inner work. So you're clearing the imprint. So when you do get triggered, it's a lot easier to move through it. But it's also sometimes like, hey, I'm in a frozen state right now. Like if you're in a relationship or a friend, and then like they know what to do. Be like, hey, sometimes I get into this state and I'm not going to ask for cuddles, but what I just want you to just hold me, like whatever. And that's going to help you. And that's okay, because it's not about just doing it yourself. Sometimes it's about being in community, because we have these traumas from being in this literally insane world, right? And it's just the more like you're doing now, you're just being vulnerable and sharing it. You're already getting your power back. So what we did a few minutes ago, you got a piece of your power back. And like every time you do that, you have more energy to break through the old patterns.
What are some of the key ways you think our culture's insane and it's destroying us?
I don't think it's destroying us as souls. I think it's forging us into Jedi.
Okay.
But it's also, I think, the education system is really just it's a slavery system, and you're taught a bunch of oftentimes false and repetitive things to program your mind to do repetitive tasks instead of think for yourself. Yeah. Is one example. And of course, the toxicity of pretty much everything to such a degree. So, it's balancing it, it's time to unlearn. It's time to detox. It's time to reconnect with the truth and with the divine within yourself. And as we do that, we can share that more with other people.
Do you see that right now, or do you agree that right now is one of those like intense forging moments in society? What are we exactly going through right now? So I've been pretty sensitive since I have a kid, and right now it feels the most intense it's been since I've been alive. In terms of that, like the space to forge or to vibrate higher is unlike anything I've ever seen. Why do you think that's happening right now?
Yeah, because this is the really the breaking point where the world's, we just got a taste of COVID, what happened, but there's going to be increasing scenarios like that, and it's not about being afraid of them, because it's actually, if you're listening, you're probably already doing a lot of amazing work on yourself and are equipped to handle and see through a lot of what's going on. So it's really about just connecting deeper to your intuition and trusting that you're here for a greater purpose, and that you don't have to let the fear get to you. It's about just responding with your intuition. Your intuition is always leading you in the right way. Yeah. And so it's just that's your GPS, and it's detaching from, whatever happens, like being flexible, right? Because everything's changing really fast. And the more you can detach and be flexible, the more resilient you are, and the more graceful this will this will be for you.
How are you avoiding fear? I'm assuming you have some level of psychicness where you can kind of see what's going to happen. I see certain stuff too, global warming, disasters, other stuff like that. How do you see that and not fear?
Yeah, well, there's different levels of the psychic. Like a year before COVID happened, I did a ceremony that showed me exactly what's going to happen. And then it freaked me out a little bit. And then I asked, I get a question answer, and I was like, don't worry, you're going to be fine. But most of the world's going to freak out, So I was like, okay. So I remember that, and then
that's what I'm always told. Same thing.
Yeah, because it's true. So especially if you're doing this line of being in this line of work of sharing the light. So when you're trying to scan psychically for things, and there's still a level of fear of like, I'm trying to protect myself or like avert it, then you're going to feel some fear when you get the answer. But that fear is not your intuition. It's still just unresolved things. So you can track it back to the past and be like, oh, you know what? I still maybe don't fully trust myself here. Or like, this was traumatizing. I need to still kind of go back there and clear it. So, for me now, like that was debilitating, to be honest, a few years ago. And now like, I don't even really tune in anymore to that.
To what?
To like what's going to happen.
Why?
Because it just doesn't feel relevant for me, because I know that it's kind of like you put in your GPS, like where you're going, not where you don't want to go. Yeah, so it's like,
because I've been noticing that in me right now, whenever I have like not a trigger, but kind of like this feeling of this doesn't seem right, I'm trying to explore. And that's one I've been thinking about right now, is this over awareness and focus on what's next. Kind of like the doomsday mentality, like preparing for the next, climate emergency or the next pandemic.
Right.
And the deep state's going to kill us all this stuff. And they may be right some of the time, but I've been more so noticing that they're kind of creating it by giving so much energy into it. So why is that perspective ultimately the better way, just to focus on right now and healing yourself and not giving so much energy to these, potential scenarios?
I'll answer this with like a metaphor. So I know this ancient martial arts where, let's say you're coming at me with a knife. Like most people are going to look at the knife because they don't want to get stabbed by it. And what do you think is going to happen? They're going to get stabbed by the knife because their focus is there. But if you look at the empty space where you and the knife are not, you can see these people like they keep trying to stab you and you're just dodging it. Like they can. It's literally like Neo.
Yeah.
So you focus on what path, put your eyes on your path, and that's the best way to be safe and to thrive beyond being safe, right? So it's just realizing that there's a part of you, right, trying to drive the ship again. It's a younger part of you that's afraid. And instead of letting it go and like pet the crystal ball, you can realize like, hey, is this actually what I need? Is this serving me? Or do I just need to actually take a step back and hold that part of me and like help that part feel safe?
Do you think that'll be a beneficial effect for the light people to not so much focus on the knife and focus on the empty space? What would be the effect of if most of us fighting this battle would just focus on the empty space rather than looking at the knife obsessively? What's that effect?
Well, it's basically like, what's the difference between a bunch of people driving without their GPS on all over the fucking place, or being in unison on their purpose together in their own unique way? So, and the empty space is really just like your north node. It's your GPS of where you're meant to go. So, you might get an intuition like, hey, it's time to leave this place, or it's time to stock up. And like, if you get that clearly, and the way to know that is it doesn't come with a huge fear response. Like if you're like, oh my God, and you feel like this, where do you usually feel fear? Like it's in your heart, it's in your belly. Then that's a grosser sensation. That's just your trauma being activated. There's a difference between that and like just a knowing, right? You feel it like very subtly, but it's like you've had it before. You're like, you get a message and it's true and it's true. That's when it's like, oh. So it's trusting that you'll get that when you need it.
Yeah. Last night, I kind of on internet, and I just saw all these new kind of COVID hysteria headlines come out.
Yeah.
And immediately my body went into fear. What do I do? All this stuff. How do I prepare? And once I calmed down, it was just like, you're fine.
Totally.
You don't have to do anything. You're fine.
Yeah.
And for me, it was like this battle between having that anxious response and then just trusting that you're fine. I wasn't even doing anything. It was like, you're
for
fine.
sure.
You're taken care of. Like, you're fine. It's always that message, like you're chilling.
I think it's great that you caught that. And I think if you look at like the pattern of that, it might be where you decide to like take a break for a month and shift gears. You can always go back to the news, but what if you stop giving yourself that stimuli so you could go deeper into like really alchemizing it, I think that would be really cool.
Yeah. So a little, you turn a bit, but you looking at some of your work, you have a method called dream porting.
Yeah.
What does that really entail? It sounds interesting. When I saw some of it, it was like super fascinating. So what does dream porting consist of, and why is it helping so many people?
Yeah, well, it's basically like the system that came through me from a few years ago where I was in a dark night of the soul, and I asked a question to God, like, how can I just teleport into my dream life, into a new life? Because there's so much hardship and just everything, right? Just my whole life burnt down. And it was a blessing in disguise. And that's when I learned the art of timeline shifting. And a part of it is actually, channeling a treasure map of your future. You can actually remote view, like we just talked about, the GPS, like telling me like, okay, go here today, do this. And then you're getting clues on how to navigate your life over the next month. And in a few weeks to a month, you can radically transform your level of abundance, even your health, like all sorts of things, by just listening to your higher self. Because even when we're trying to change, so much of those doubts or that false identity is manifesting and giving us signals that we're listening to. So the more that we can let our higher self, we really get clear, tune in, and really follow that, then it's like driving with the brakes off. It's like you can manifest like 5 years worth of stuff in a month if you shift gears into that. Yeah.
So I think one of the things I'm struggling with, again, it's the same thing. I've seen my future vividly.
Yeah.
I know what it's like. I'm doing this because I've seen it, but something's still not letting me kind of bring it in.
Yeah.
What I seem to deduct from that is that I'm not kind of getting the lessons I need to learn to obtain a thing. So how do you not bypass that, but is your method in the kind of giving yourself quicker the lessons you need to know to get that? I think that the journey manifestation to me hasn't been actually getting the thing. It's been learning kind of what I'm attached to, the egoistic desires on the way to the thing.
Yeah.
So how do we get those lessons quicker rather than having to wait years to go through triggers and pain and failure to learn them? How do we access those lessons quicker so we can then get the thing?
Totally. I think part of it is just having your daily practice where you journal and you meditate and be like, okay, like, who do I still not have unconditional love for today? And send them love, or maybe send them a text, like clear it. What am I still afraid of? Right? Or what happened yesterday? Like you said, you watched the news, you had this negative reaction. How many times does that happen a week? And then that's how you can be like, okay, it's time to actually make a new rule for myself. Right? So you slowly architect based off the patterns you're seeing. You're architecting a spaceship for yourself where, okay, I'm no longer putting in these unhealthy signals and I'm putting in more of these healthy signals, and I'm now driving 3 times faster than I was last week. And if you keep doing that, you can literally go into quantum speed here. But it's just pacing yourself, because if you have a judgment, like I saw this on DMT, like why am I not here yet? That's also creating pressure. So it's a balance of loving yourself and playing it cool as you're like smartly like looking at all these things and fixing the hole in your spaceship so you can go faster.
I'm curious what your take on addiction is. Like why so many of us in Western society are so addicted right now.
We've been programmed that there's something wrong with us. We're not good enough. So it can be with psychedelics. It could be with sex. It could be with TV or just daydreaming. It doesn't have to be a substance, but it's just trying to numb or dissociate or escape from so much overwhelming feelings and traumas that we've had. We also just had a traumatic life. You live, raised in America or most of the world in this day or time. So it's normal to be addicted to stuff. It's time to like take the stigma off it and just be like, it's normal to try to cope with the craziness of this world, right? So as you take the shame off of it and just go to the core, it's like, what am I trying to escape from? And face it and get support with that, right? And you'll see that it's really, those thoughts are really an illusion. It's just a story you created of like, oh, I'm not good enough. I need to prove myself. All of those things. When you really like open your eye to that with compassion, you fill that gap. And when you fill that gap, you'll realize you're ready to stop the addiction or transition out of it, and just hold that part of you each day is the remedy to no longer crave and let those signals take over you. But I think also detoxing your physical body is a big key, because all those toxins can help to acerbate the addictive signals. It could be sugar from parasites. It could be stress from heavy metals. So cleaning your body is a big part of it.
Clean from what? Parasites and heavy metals mainly?
Toxins. There's a slew of stuff that's going on. Yeah.
Have you done many of those in your life?
I have. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. I'm still on the journey. Yeah.
What's been the most effective detox you've done?
It's hard to say. I mean, iboga is a plant medicine, definitely detoxed my body and also gave me all these visions. But I've done like liver flushes and whole body cleanses and a bunch of IVs and chelation. So it just depends on your budget and start where you're at and just really tune into like what system needs to go first and really, have a professional help you if you can. Right. But I think at this point, like we all need it.
Yeah, for sure.
Semi-consistently.
Yeah. Is there anything what work are you doing on yourself now? Are you at a place now where you're kind of like, I've mastered this body in this realm, I'm trying to just in cruise control now? Or are things you're still working through right now?
I'm still working through a lot. I mean, I was, autistic and I didn't really have a childhood. I didn't play sports with my friends. I wasn't authentic. I didn't go on dates. So there's so much that I
think you were born that way, or it kind of was molded through childhood.
I was a superhero when I was like 4 years old. I was literally like moving stuff with my mind, and I had a woman quit smoking when I was 4 years old. I met at a salon, just channeling wisdom. So I was born with amazing gifts, and then you can guess kind of what happened. That just shut that down. Like for a lot of people, it shut down their gifts and then became autistic. I think not naturally.
Why do you think shutting down your gifts made you autistic?
Why? Sorry.
Why do you think shutting down your gifts made you autistic?
Well, it just went hand in hand because my gifts are my soul. The essence of who I am is being able to feel and tune in and express myself and share the magic. And as I shut down and with toxins, with trauma, with abuse, then they'll shut down as well.
That's interesting because I think it's an important point for people to recognize. Is my experience too that I couldn't move stuff with with my hands, but I've always had kind of psychicness, intuitive psychicness, very sensitive.
Yeah.
I didn't want it to be that way. I had to shut it down.
Yeah.
It was too much for me. I didn't know how to handle it. And of course, when I was 14, 15 or in college, so I went to drugs to just kind of numb out and partying.
Very common, yeah.
And it's an interesting point because when I trace back my addiction, at first it was always like my mom did this, my dad did this, which is true. It's there, but it was more so just like this repulsion and shutting down of my gifts. That like negating or like ignoring of my gifts made me, I think, mentally deranged.
Super common.
And the more I kind of honor them and nurture them, the more I kind of expanded.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, when you can see and feel things and the vast majority of people are literally being gobbled up by negative thoughts and who knows what, right? It could be really scary as a child and as an adult. And when we're not learned how to deal with it, or we're told it's not true, the natural thing to do is shut it off, to just try to stop it because it's so overwhelming, right? So it's being easy on yourself. And now like I've managed to open it and just be cool with it for the most part. But what's hard for me is not helping all these people at work. I teach big classes and people come on and just share, tap in right away and tune in and don't take it on anymore. I'm fine. Have a great time. But it's really just like the people close to you, right? That's like, you care about them and you can see this stuff, but they're not asking you sometimes or paying you. Sometimes you just need to love them and accept it. But sometimes, I could see the future and it's like, oh, okay, watch out, stop taking drugs. This is going to happen. Or,
how's that been with family? That's the toughest for me. So I have the same thing.
100%.
Family, just the number one thing you can't really change.
It's really just a practice of unconditional love, realizing that they're not really victims. It's like, at the end of the day, like they have free will and they need to learn their lesson in their own way and time.
Yeah.
And it's tough because you could say that and you still feel it, right? And so it's finding the balance between like being really authentic and the more you can do it like in a neutral way where you're like inviting them and saying like, I feel this and because I care, without trying to push or attach to them changing, which they can make a defense mechanism out of. That's really the sweet spot where you can learn to Jedi your way into their heart without the ego, right? Because if there's even a little bit of the ego, then their ego is going to block it. So it's really just,
What's the sign of the ego coming up in that experience?
It's attachment. It's
needing them to be someone else.
Needing them to listen to you, to agree with you, to make a change at a certain time. All of that is your attachment. Even though if it's coming, you could say it's coming from a good place. The ego doesn't mean it's bad. It just means it's coming from your human self as opposed to seeing the divine perspective that, they're an infinite soul. They've had to learn lessons in a very hard way. Sometimes it's like you have in the past, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you take responsibility for that part and really dissolve it and express and alchemize it before you express things, you create a delivery system that can bypass their ego.
I had that lesson beaten down into me. I think since I was about 14, for some reason I was hard on my mom. I was like, stop eating this, stop thinking that, do this work, do the somatic work. Never did it, but she ended up dying, a year ago. So it was like, of course I was saying that, but the lesson was that I think weeks before she was dying, I knew. I was like, I didn't tell her you're gonna die in a couple of weeks. Do these things, she didn't want to do them.
Yeah.
The hardest lesson for me was like, okay, if I can't like save my person I love the most from death, because that's her experience, like I can't really do anything. I can do my best and love and speak in that language, but ultimately everyone has their own karmic experience of this reality, even if that's death. I can't step in and be God. And that was since then I've been a lot better. Having that experience was like, I can't save anyone really. I can, as you said, I can be loving and kind to them, but it's ultimately their choice in that moment.
It is their choice. It is. And like, the more gentle you are with that, because sometimes people just never had gentleness in their life. And that's what they need first, to listen to basic advice, because they're so hard on themselves, like I feel like your mom was a bit.
Yeah.
So I think it's a beautiful lesson where you did your best, and now like you're sharing it more with so many people that are listening, So like that's carrying on.
Is that the piece you struggle with the most? Is just knowing people's kind of trajectory and seeing their timeline, seeing their points of suffering, and not being able to just delete it?
Yeah, it's still something I struggle with here and there with close friends, people I really care about, and it's just another practice of me of just not attaching and like just allowing them to be on their journey. But also it's teaching me like how can I communicate better, and it's just being more authentic, because sometimes I would just repress it or different things, and sometimes I've just been like, hey, you know what, like I need to make a stop here because I see you running off this cliff and I don't want to have to go through that. And sometimes that really helps. So it's learning how to be authentic too. It's like, it's an upgrade of using your voice, because sometimes your voice can serve them. It's just doing it the right energy.
What I struggle with the most in that, I think a lot of people are there right now too, is kind of if you're able to see the agendas of the COVID stuff, all that kind of thing, and people you love are just brainwashed. They can't believe what you're saying. They're stuck in that kind of like TV delusion or mainstream media delusion. That's what I struggle with the most is being able to kind of have unconditional love and not want to change their mind and kind of respect them for believing the illusions. That's what I struggle with the most in that experience. How have you dealt with that? I'm assuming you had the same issues.
100%. Yeah. I think it's like if you do feel called to talk to those people, you got to start kind of like with a child, and before you go into like talking about agendas or whatever you believe, it's really tuning into like getting curious. It's like, okay, what makes you feel this is true? And what are you feeling around this? And do you like feeling this way? And like really just like going really, really slow to like, do you know what I mean? I think that's really the key, is really just helping them look within and start to do things if they're open to it,
I had someone on my podcast tell me that when you have someone who's super smart, who's like really believes something strongly, it's the same as like a little kid showing you a painting, in the sense that it's just they want to be proven as like this smart, amazing person. So you're kind of challenging their core.
Well, it's tied to their ego, right?
Yeah.
So to bypass the ego again, you got to be like super gentle and not come from any ego yourself.
Yeah.
So it's really, you could see it as a perfect like lesson or gym training to purify yourself, because you care about them. It's like, here's my training. Let's put it to work. How can I be 100% aligned and my heart open without attaching myself? And I think that's what can create the highest capacity for miracles.
What's been your core teaching in this human experience? Like in your own lessons, like in your own journey, what's been the core kind of message you think you've been taught in this lifetime?
That's a great question. Let me see. Yeah, I think it's really just decisiveness. There's been so many times where like I tried for years to manifest something or heal something, and then I finally was like, okay, I'm done. Like, and sometimes I got angry, and then all of a sudden like it just manifested like that. And what you're taught about anger is it's bad or it's not spiritual, but it's like sometimes you need to release the anger to really respect yourself, or to move from an even lower vibration like apathy or resentment or shame. And so, realizing that you can claim and create anything you want, especially like in your own life, and I use that for other people when I like claim their healing. They experience miracles because then they agree to that. So it's really just realizing that you can do that, and that's what they teach in the ancient scriptures. That we create reality, and balancing that with the humility of like tuning in and doing it from the right place, right, is the sweet spot.
Do you think any human being can create the reality?
100%. Well,
even if
they're already creating the reality, that's the thing. It's just that most people, they're not awake enough, so their subconscious is primarily the one that's creating things, even though they don't really like it, and it sucks.
So you believe you can kind of evolve out of your own karma?
Well, yeah, you can. I mean, you can. Some people, they take like 5-MeO DMT, and they can clear a bunch of their karma in a few minutes. Some people need to integrate that more. But the way it works is like your karma is stuck to your identity, and even if it's from past lives, if you disidentify, if you realize like, oh, this isn't real, now I don't have to prove anything and sacrifice myself over and over. Once you learn the lesson, you clear the karma. So karma is not a punishment where it's like, I got to just have a shitty life for another 20 lifetimes to clear this karma. Some people think it's like, no, it's just a reflection to show you something within so you can free yourself of it. So there's fast ways, there's slow ways, but it's really just realizing that all of that, it's based off a false identity. It's a lower level of consciousness that when you wake up to, that you free yourself from.
So that's interesting. Do you think the purpose of karma is that same as like the the dark that informs your light and informs your kind of heroic
and
journey?
you learn from it for a time, but it's not graduate school. It's like you don't always have to learn from karma. You don't have to always create karma and then clear it and all those things. And it's just based off staying awake, where you're not judging yourself, where you're not doing things outside the universal laws. You learn the universal laws and then you align with them, right? And then you learn how to clear the karma that's already at the deepest imprint.
What are the universal laws?
Yeah. So, I mean, I go deep into this in my school. We go through all of this, but basically, there's some, big ones, and then there's some subsidiary laws.
To the big ones. Let's do the big ones.
Yeah. Let's see. So, one of them is just, the law of cause and effect, right? So what you put out, you get back. So like with manifestation, like if you really put a lot of energy into manifesting a partner, but you don't feel good enough, then, you're going to manifest someone eventually that is going to prove that right to you because you planted that seed. So it's all about the energy and the perspective in which you plant something, right? There's a lot of ones about like the law of vibration. Like, one cool thing is people like feel triggered, like you said, like happens for hours. How do I clear it? If you have an ice cube and you put like boiling water over it, the ice cube is going to melt, right? Because the water is a higher vibration. So let's say you're feeling a trigger right now, you feel frozen. What if you focused on the version of you that is just like fully in love with yourself, right? Or that scene from the future, which you saw in DMT, and you just breathe it into that spot for like a minute or two and like keep feeling it and keep your focus there. Even if you're feeling like, you're going to see it's very rapidly going to shift and raise the vibration if you just keep your focus on it and feel it. And so the law of, part of the law of vibration is, if there's two vibrations in the same place, the higher vibration is always going to win. So it's learning how to use metaphysics to rapidly move you. Oh, it's like you're driving your spaceship, like, oh, this is happening, this block's happening, to navigate your spaceship through time and space. And then realizing that space and time are just a construct too, right? And that you're this eternal spirit. And, that's part of awakening, is realizing that you're this infinite awareness, and you can change the past, you can change the future timeline, and you can alchemize whatever is in this moment, because it's all an agreement. It's all something you've already chosen to create, and that you can shift it, because quantum physics says, you change your perspective, it changes physics, right? So it's just, there's so much to go into, but that's a few breadcrumbs there.
No, that's definitely some juicy ones. So I'm going to end with this question, because I think you'll have a good answer. It's a basic one, but I'm curious your take on it. Why do you think we come here?
Yeah, I believe we come here to learn, that this is a school, and we come here multiple times so that we can really master, the lessons that we're here to do, whether it's courage or humility, love, taking risks, following our intuition, doing things for others outside of ourselves, right? So there's all these qualities of enlightenment and beyond. And I feel like this is the playground where we get to practice and take risks. And then it seems like the most intense things happen, but then you like wake up again and you get another shot. And, you know, the thing to remember is that we can never die, that we're these eternal spirits. We're part of the one.
Also, explain this as if I'm in kindergarten.
Okay.
What is this reality?
So this reality is a playground where you get to play and learn the rules of this video game. And you'll never be able to really lose or die. You'll just start over. And the more you trust inside, you'll realize you have all the answers within. And the more you realize that whatever happens outside, they're just lessons for you, and they don't have to ruin your day. They're just there to teach you that you have everything you need inside. The more you're going to advance in this video game, and the better life's going to get.
That's a good answer. Do you believe in kind of multiple realities and dimensions? Have you gotten into that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah. So we exist in like
people I don't understand it. And that's one thing I'm still stupid on. I don't get it.
No, you're not stupid in it. It's just, you know, we're taught that we're in linear time, but imagine that we're in vertical time. So what that means is you're in this present moment right now, but you have like a stack of all these different timelines and dimensions where you can quickly just shift right now to like choose this. And it's just like changing the radio dial frequency. It's like, I'm going to tune in to this timeline. And once you learn how to tap into it, you just decide, and then you can download that frequency inside of you. That's what I teach to do. And oftentimes there's just blocks or insecurities in the way. It's like, you know, things come up and you need to.
What do you mean by the timelines? Like just various.
Yeah, it's basically
decisions you take. Like what do these look like?
It's the quantum realm of possibilities. Okay. So, you know, even, you know, for example, like here's an extreme case is in you know, the Mazatec tribe. There's some shamans in Mexico that take salvia brew, and they can go into, like, let's say they need to fix a car and they've never fixed a car. They can download the parallel self of them who's a mechanic, and all of a sudden they'll be able to fix the car. They'll have the entire knowledge of fixing a car. So you don't need medicine to do that. You can learn to do it, you know, without it. And that's, you know, there's a lot, you know, for example, one time I was giving a talk and then I sprained my ankle. It was like excruciating. I had to have someone help me walk, and I've never done that before. I was like, how long does this take to heal? It's like, it's probably gonna take like 6 weeks. And I just refused. I was like, no, I want it to take like 30 minutes. And I just decided though, I didn't know how, but I was just like, I refused that timeline. I'm choosing a new timeline. And then a voice said, go to this fire pit, sit over there. And then a few minutes later, this NASA astronaut walked by. All of a sudden, like she stopped. She was so busy, like, you know, didn't want to. And then like, she just stopped. There was like this force field, and looked at me and then sat down right next to me, saw that my ankle was sprained, put on this space age healing device bracelet on my ankle. In 10 minutes, fully healed it. Then I went on a run, completely pain-free, completely healed it quantumly. It's all energy. It's energy package. That's what she said. And so because I chose that.
I have broken ankles, so I need that.
We need to find that astronaut again. Yeah, I think she's in NorCal. There's a lab there.
Jesus.
That's so crazy. It's all there. It's just knowing that you can is the first step. And then learning how to use your vibration.
In that moment, you fully believe, I think you fully believe it'll heal in 30 minutes.
It's beyond belief, because it's knowing, you know, the knowing is just like, because I know that I just know that it's possible, and I'm choosing it and I'm claiming it. Right. So once you know, and it's, you build confidence once you do these things, you know, just like you learn how to throw a golf ball, you know, so far away with the wind, it sounds impossible. But then like after a few years, you're golfing crazy shots. It's like, just like anything, you know, you practice, you learn the technique, and then you realize, oh, I can do this for big things and small things. You know, a few times I've done it, say I was like, I'm about to die, or like, I don't know what's going to happen. And then like, and within a minute, like everything just changed. I just did this technique.
What are some more examples of that? That one's insane. So I'm just curious.
Yeah.
Where you just kind of claim something like that and it just, things have popped up.
Another, you know, and I experiment with this. So this is one where I decided to download like an actual archetype. I was inspired by this TV show. And this is like, you know, someone on the show that has a lot of qualities I don't feel like I embody yet. So I'm like, okay, let's see what happens. And it's a very wealthy person from the Renaissance based in Italy.
What was the show?
The Medici.
I haven't seen it. But...
Netflix. So, and I put like a screen. So I was like, I don't want to take any weird Hollywood energy. Like, I just want like the pure good qualities. I'm going to just absorb. And I was literally at a party, you know, Garen, I was like 100 people in his house. For some reason I was bored. I'm like, I'm just going to do a little magic right now and see what happens. So I did that. And this was a period too, where I just moved to Austin, and like, I went through like just a bunch of stuff happened. And so like, I was like pretty low on money, and I was kind of burnt out. I didn't know where I was going to live. I was literally just like, kind of like rolling around. And then, so I downloaded that. And then a minute later, like this couple looked at me and my friends were like, what did you just do? Like, you look way more attractive and masculine and like all this stuff. I was like,
how did you do that? Like, how can we do that? Let's say, because it happens all the time. I think to many men too, like you watch, James Bond, right? I'll watch James Bond and be like, damn, I want to be present like James Bond. Yeah. Or like, I want to be, like have, attractiveness like James Bond. How would you, if I want to be present like James Bond. How to do that?
It's learning how to download and absorb energy in a safe way, and then learning to hold it. Because if you just take it for a minute and then you lose it, it's not really going to do much, right? And so that requires some training. But essentially, doing that, within 3 days, I manifested the craziest house on like 100 acres to myself. And I manifested a full expense paid trip, business class flight to Italy, to the exact town where the character is from. And that's where I got offered to be the wizard for, let's just say one of the richest people in the world for his birthday party. And so, and then there was even people I met with the names of people in the character. So it's like so much happened. I was like, whoa, this is kind of freaky.
How did you download it? How did you do that?
You want to do it in a safe way. Like if you're watching and trying it out, first of all, you just want to make sure you're downloading just the good parts, and make sure like you feel 100% confident in that before you try this. But you learn to merge with anything. It's just like downloading, love. Feel like, okay, start by focusing on a quality, and then breathe it into your body. Start breathing it into your pores. Visualize it, feel it going down your whole body, and you're telling yourself, like, being decisive, like, this is me now. This is who I am.
Yeah.
And sometimes there might be blocks that come up. It's like, oh, but I don't feel good enough. It's like, that's the contrast. It's like, whatever is not aligned with that is going to come up. And you can either get overwhelmed with it and become a victim, or you can be like, okay, I'm going to write these 5 things down. I'm going to do a ceremony. I'm going to go through each one. I'm going to get support to face them so that I can fully seal in this frequency. And if you do that work and seal it in, and there's daily practices too, then reality has to shift and reflect in that new way, because whatever frequencies you hold is what is reflecting.
When I'm assuming a test in that, as let's say you download it in that day, you feel like that person you're trying to, the qualities you're going to call in, I'm assuming that 2 days later, you probably face the resistance of it. You probably face the opposite of it in yourself, that part of yourself kind of getting louder. What do you do in that moment? Let's say, for example, if I was manifesting presence like James Bond, and then I was like locked in, like, macho, suave, and then 2 days later I was all over the place.
Yeah.
What do you do in that moment to kind of call back in? Is it again tapping into that frequency, feeling it, and kind of leveling up in that way?
Yeah, the first step is, again, just creating that spaciousness where you take a step back and realize, oh, it's not you that's acting out, it's this old part of yourself. So you see it like a child or whatever, and be like, hey, what do you need? You're scared again? Great, let's go into it. What are you scared about, right? And then you just have a conversation, you heal it. We do several different techniques, that I teach or that on your own. And it's not making it a big deal. It's just realizing, oh, the little kid needs another reminder, right? It's just part of the day. It's like imagine you have a physical child, and 3 or 4 times a day, he freaks out a little bit and just needs like, okay, you got a sugar crash, or like you need a hug, or like we need to play with you for a few minutes. So it's just like, just keeping it super cool. It's like, oh, okay, it's happening right now. Let me go into it, right? Instead of creating like, it's like an avalanche, like, oh no, this is happening, I'm losing it. You're just framing it like, oh, it's just a little reminder. It's part of the process. When you keep it cool like that, when you keep it neutral, then you keep your power. It's a lot easier. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, man, I got to say, you have probably some of the largest array of codes I've seen in a human being. So I've learned a lot from this. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing all this for free. And you too, man. And where can people find more of your work and work with you if they want to, or get some of your courses and stuff like that?
Totally, yeah. My Instagram is Daniel Raphael with the PH and the number 1 at the end. And then my website's dreamporting.com. So it's like teleporting, but with dreamporting.
Amazing. Thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
It's great meeting you.
You too, man. I hope you enjoyed that video. If you want to watch more content, please click this video right here, and don't forget to subscribe right here. Thank you.